Find clarity even when things feel uncertain and overwhelming. Clarity is about how you think about tomorrow and still stay connected to today. So what does clarity look like? Is clarity something you are born with, or can it be created? What are the benefits of having clarity? Is clarity really that important? Does it make that big of a difference? Well, for me, in my pursuit of creating clarity, in my life, it has kept me more engaged, more focused on the future, and has absolutely been a game changer. It's been a contributing factor to my growth. This is how it has made me feel so much more fulfilled. For me, having clarity is like having a compass. It gives me direction to move towards. So as I began to study personal development and clarity specifically, I came across a study published by J.D. Campbell. That study was published in the American Psychological Associations, and it showed a correlation between the lack of clarity and negative emotions. And when I read that and I reflected on it, it started making perfect sense to me. Each time I acted with absolute certainty, every endeavor, from the police department to the fire department to retirement, through starting businesses to real estate and mentorships, coaching, every time I took action from a position of certainty, I always felt better. I acted with more confidence. I was more alive. I was more fulfilled. A professor of psychology from NYU, Peter Golowitzer, he published a paper on mindset showing that clarity helps you through tough times. You see, life isn't your friend. The hits will come. And I know I've had plenty of them. I've hit numerous roadblocks, setbacks, hand grenades, call them what you will. But the one thing that has always helped me the most was my clarity of intent. Every time I experienced those hand grenades going off, all around me, people would be freaking out, chaos would ensue. That's when I would slow down a little bit. I would take a deep breath. I'd ask, what's my goal? Where am I going? What outcome am I aiming for? What's my objective here? What do I really want to see happen? The clarity that came from those questions helped remind me of what my purpose was. It reminded me where I was headed so that I could get back on course. And that's a key piece here. When those hand grenades are going off all around you, and they absolutely will, those hand grenades may knock me off course, but it doesn't stop me. I don't become a deer in headlights. When I started to really pay attention to creating clarity in my life, I realized that what the ripple effect of that was. Some people call it the butterfly effect. I started seeing more confidence in what I was setting goals on. Those goals started becoming more robust, more grandiose. They started helping more people. I started actually having an impact through the goals that I was setting. I was smiling more. I was in a better mood. I was a bit more aggressive in how I was attacking life. I was going out there and getting things. I was making shit happen. Not letting those grenades hinder my forward progression. It was just part of life. It's part of the process. So if clarity is so important, then the million-dollar question becomes, how do I gain more clarity? Because you can create the clarity in your life. You can create it. So I'm going to share with you some of the things that I've done and that I do. I started reading and I focused on my self-development, my personal development, right? I read authors like Mel Robbins, Ed Milet, a guy James Doty, Gary Van Warmerdam, and Brendan Rashad. Gary wrote a really good book on beliefs, by the way. I listened to Andrew Huberman's podcast. I started to, and I continue to learn about how the brain works. That allowed me to associate what I'm seeing, doing, and feeling in life with the science that explains the how and why. And once I started putting those two things together, I had a ton of clarity. The second thing, I journal on everything from goals to skills to how I was feeling in specific moments. Journaling is really powerful, getting the thoughts out of your head. The third, this is a big one. I sit in silence and I really think about the impact I wanted to have on the world. A solo weekend is really absolutely magical here. And if you haven't heard of a solo weekend is exactly that. The first part of it's solo, right? So you're going away by yourself. Second part's a weekend. It doesn't necessarily have to be a weekend. It really references 2 or 3 days. And how I do my solo weekends is there's only a couple of absolutes on my solo weekends. One, I remove myself from my household. So I don't remove the family from the household. I remove myself from the household. I don't want to have daily reminders of the things that I have to do. When I sit in my house, there's always whatever. The lawn has to get mowed. The wood has to get split and stacked. The desk has to get straightened up. The dishes have to get washed. Whatever it is, I have to take all of that out. So I go to a local hotel or an Airbnb. I try and go to a place that has room service, or if it's an Airbnb, DoorDash, or I don't try and cook as much as I would in my daily life. I do that because I want that silence. I want that quietness, that calmness. I don't want to have to think about the typical daily things that I always think about. I want to remove myself from that. I'm putting myself in a different environment. So I'll order in, or if it's an Airbnb, sometimes I'll do an Airbnb in a remote location, and then I have to bring in food with me. And in those instances, it's really quick stuff. It'll be a bowl of granola for breakfast, yogurt and berries, a quick salad, so that I can stay on task. Because I don't want to be distracted from the outcome that I've set for the weekend. The other thing I do is there are no electronics. So my phone just gets thrown out. That's it. My phone's gone. The only person that can contact me through my phone is my wife, and that's only in an extreme emergency. Something happens with the house, the kids, things like that. Otherwise, she knows not to contact me. There's no social media. There's no Facebook. There's no television, right? What I'm doing on this solo weekend takes place of 3 days, right? So I arrive there. I'm just going to use the weekend. It doesn't have to be the weekend. It could be a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The time doesn't matter. I'm going to use the weekend as the framework. I arrive Friday, 3 o'clock. That's my decompression time. Saturday, I wake up. I get to true work. And that work looks like reading, meditation, visualization. It looks like journaling. It looks like me paying attention to where my mind is going. What thoughts am I having? What feelings are being conjured up? What stress do I feel? Do I feel stressed? Do I feel relaxed? Like I journal all of this out, and it gets the mind into rest and digest, into a calmness, into a peacefulness. And then all of that stuff that's underlying floats up to the top, and I can start paying attention to it. That's the real secret of a solo weekend. Real secret of the solo weekend is once you remove yourself from society and you're sitting in peacefulness and calmness, all those thoughts float up, and now you can journal out those thoughts. You can start attacking those thoughts. I will bring a whole bunch of books. I probably bring between 12 and 24 books so that if I need to reference something, I can reference it. I've only used probably about 5 or 6 books at any one specific time, but I'll bring whatever I think I may need because you never know where the mind's going to bring you. So that's the solo weekend. The solo weekend's really about getting in tune with the underlying currents of my mind that don't always float or make themselves appear because of all of the chaos of daily life. So that's a solo weekend. 4, I do visualization. Now visualization, we spoke about that in the solo weekend just now. But visualization, to go a little bit deeper on it, is I will visualize the sights, the sounds, the smells. I will put myself as best I can in the outcome I'm looking to produce. So I will see that coaching client, I will see them light up when the light bulb goes off, when something finally clicks. I will see that. I will see the smile on their face. I will see their body language. I will hear the excitement in their voice. I will feel the sunlight coming through the window during that conversation. I will get all of my emotions so that I can really see what that future moment looks like. That's what visualization is. I actually wrote my obituary. That's an exercise I do during the solo weekend. And writing that obituary comes from a very famous person, actually. Somebody you've actually heard of. Alfred Nobel, the Nobel Peace Prize. The Nobel Peace Prize was created because Alfred Nobel didn't want the Nobel name to be associated with the Merchant of Death. I'll explain. Alfred woke up one day, and he picked up the newspaper, and in the newspaper was his obituary. Somebody had mistakenly wrote an obituary for Alfred. Alfred's brother is the one that actually passed away, but they wrote Alfred's obituary. And in it, it called him the Merchant of Death because Alfred's business, the Nobel family, invented dynamite. And they invented dynamite for mining, but dynamite was used in war, and war kills people, so now it was associated that Alfred was the Merchant of Death. He didn't want to be remembered that way. So he decided, I'm going to rewrite my obituary. And he went and lived life so that he could, when he died, he could be remembered in the light of the Nobel Peace Prize, as opposed to the Merchant of Death. So I write my obituary. What do I want to be remembered for? And it's not really about what I want to be remembered for as much as what is the impact that I want to have on the world. And then when they stand there and give my eulogy, this is what they will say. So I actually create the impact I want, the vision of that impact. And now, throughout life, I move towards that. Remember, clarity is a compass. And 6, this is the last tip I'm going to give you, and this is the most important tip. The last tip, the most important tip, and that tip is I started to take action. You got to take action. You can do all the visualization, all the journaling, all the reading, all the interviews, watch all the TV shows, listen to all the podcasts. You can do all of this, and if you're not going to go out there and actually get into the arena, like Teddy Roosevelt talks about, get into that arena, get bloody, get dirt in your face. If you're not going to go out there and actually take action, then none of this is going to help you, because you have to take action. I started to take action. I started to act as if I had already accomplished the life I had set out to accomplish. I started to take action on the steps. So I started writing articles. I started doing podcast interviews. I started helping people. I started asking more questions of people, more engaging questions. I started asking questions that made people think. I started, and this is a big one, I started listening more than I was talking. People started engaging more with me. So I started taking that action of who I wanted to be, so that when the time came, I would just step into that role. I started taking action and making shit happen. You have to go out there and grab life by the back of the neck and get in the arena, because if you don't, then nothing's going to change. Guys, around here, we live up here in the numerator, not down here in the denominator. Results over excuses. Go out there today, be unstoppable, and crush life. Good to see you guys.